Viriyam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavad-pada Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah. Hari Om. So, if Pratyaksha is not the means, if Pratyaksha, if we can't figure out the Jagat Karanam through Pratyaksha, we cannot also figure out the Jagat Karanam through Anumana, Arthapatti, Anupalabdhi, Upamana, because they're all based on Pratyaksha. Even simile is based on, is like that. If somebody tells Rama is like, Lakshmana is like Rama, then I must have seen what is Rama. So I can't use my eyes and then say Brahman is, nor can I use my eyes and say Brahman is not. Neither I can verify the presence of Brahman, nor I can verify its absence. Therefore, the senses are a part of, they are a result of ignorance, self-ignorance. A result of self-ignorance cannot be contrary, it can't go against self, it can't remove self-ignorance. If a result of self-ignorance can remove self-ignorance, then self-ignorance would not stay even for a second. Because the moment suppose it is self-ignorant, the result comes and it goes against it. Kahan hoga ji? Ignorance can't exist. Ignorance, it can't even begin. Ignorance would be, a phenomenon called ignorance would be impossible. Ignorance would be impossible if the result of ignorance can be contrary to ignorance. The result of ignorance is contrary not to ignorance. The result of ignorance is contrary to the truth. So, Pratyakshadi Pramana, Sandhi, Pramatritvam and the entire universe, this realm of sense perception is a result of self-ignorance. The realm of sense perception is an appearance in the truth, about the truth, to the truth. If you want some more prepositions, we will have asked. The realm of perception is an appearance in the truth, to the truth, and it is a distortion of the truth. It is in the truth. Because it is a distortion of the truth, in the truth, to the truth, it is not separate from the truth. It can't exist without the truth. You know, a concessional statement is, Karyam can't exist without Karanam. Creation can't exist without the source. But a Vedanta Vidyarthi, fundamentally he has to understand, the error can't exist without the truth. A Uttam Adhikari must understand. You see, creation can't exist without the source. Is a part of the teaching prakriya. But that should continue, that should ultimately mean the creation can't exist without the source. This statement should ultimately mean the error can't exist without the truth. If that is appreciated, you are miles and miles and miles ahead. Miles and miles and miles ahead of others. That should make you happy. That should make us happy. Why? Because it's not easy to swoop on this reality for a student that ananyatvam is on the basis of non-separateness of the creation from the source is actually, it means fundamentally, the non-separateness of the error from the truth. So if the realm of perception is a distortion about the self, an appearance in the self, to the self, in the self, of the self, a democratic energy of the people, for the people, by the people. So this samsara is a democratic samsara. What is it? It is a perception, is an appearance in the truth, of the truth, to the truth. So it can never be separate from the truth. Therefore, ultimately you make the fundamental sense. No bluff can exist without the truth. Adhyasa can't exist without adhishthanam. Srishti can't exist without the karanam, the changeless karanam. There is no difference between this language, the changeless source and fact mean the understand. Either you describe the rope as the fact and the snake an error, or you say prakriya. You look upon while explaining the whole sarpa as nothing but mithya, you say, the teacher says, behind the sarpa that you see there is a karanam called the rajju, and that rajju one day decided, let me look like sarpa, and it became a sarpa, and it is the source of the sarpa, support of the sarpa, culminating point of the sarpa. Therefore the sarpa is ananya, means what? The error is non-separate with the truth. This is another way to get greater sense of it. It simply means the error is traced to the fact. The creation is non-separate from the source. This statement, what does it mean? The student traces the creation to the source. What does that mean? He shifts his attention. He doesn't allow his sight to stop with the creation. He takes his sight to the source. The creation is falsified. When I trace the sarpa to the rajju, sarpa is falsified. When the sarpa is falsified, do you know what all things get falsified? Karya karana bhava gets falsified. Even adhisthana, adhyastha bhava, truth and error relation also gets falsified. Because this relation called truth and error is only from the error point of view, not from the truth point of view. Is prakar. And therefore, it is not possible for the pratyaksha pramana to convey the truth. I cannot use my eyes and know whether Bhagavan is there or not. So pratyaksha is not the pramanam, and in Sanskrit the language it is apramanam. Pratyaksha is apramanam, anumana is apramanam, arthapatti is apramanam, anupalabdhi upamana is apramanam, Even karma kanda, the shabda pramana is apramanam, because the pramana, the shabda pramana, the karma kanda part of Veda is a pramanam in the matter of adrishtam and dehantara prapti and karma, etc. Adrishtam means karma. And karma kanda is a pramanam in the matter of the law of karma, that is karma phala bhava, not karya karana bhava. Karma kanda talks about actions and results, not the source only. Creation, open in the air. That's not its topic. Vedanta doesn't talk about karma and phala. Vedanta talks about the karanam and the srishti. Srishti and the jagat and jagat karanam. Atma, anatma bhava. Therefore, pratyakshadi pramanas are not the pramanas for in the matter of Brahman. The karma kanda is not the pramanam, even though it is a pramanam in something else, but for in the matter of jagat karanam it is not the pramanam. Even these pramanas are not pramanas. The valid pramanas are not the pramanam in the matter of Brahma. It is imagination, theology. You understand these great theologies that make rounds in this world? These great theologies that get occupied by all the seminars, in every seminar you see. In fact, if all the scientists get together to listen to them would be more interesting than listening to all these theologians. Can all the beliefs be pramana? I am saying pramanas are not pramanam. Gee, what to talk of? When apramanam, it is imagination, purusha tantra. Okay, this is over. Thus, I wanted to, before we begin this beautiful text, let the sanskaras sink in. Let the thinking sink in. Human beings don't have a pramanam by which they can. A pramanam, they don't have, they are not endowed with a pramanam which they can use and know the truth. They can use the eyes and know the forms, use the ears and know the sounds, etc., but they don't have a pramana. Therefore, if a jiva continue to live in samsara, it's not his fault. Yes, it's not his fault. You can't blame. Why? There is no pramana. He can't do anything about it. And then you may ask a question, if jiva doesn't have the pramana, then he is not to blame. At least he can make himself happy by doing good deeds. And there I have heard a lot of, it is a debatable thing. If a man has got the capacity to do good, also to do bad. Sometimes he does good, sometimes he does bad. But therefore, jiva, if he is not able to conform to the truth, that is because he doesn't have the pramanam to know the truth. And if jiva is able to do good deeds, now sometimes he is able to do good deeds and sometimes he is able to do bad deeds. It is just that he is conforming to the kind of faculties that he is endowed with. Plus, there ends the matter. He is being true to himself. Jiva is being true to himself. If he laughs, he is being true to himself. If he cries, he is being true to himself. If he likes, he is true to being himself. If he dislikes, he is being true to himself. Thus, therefore, understand, the problem is not with the jiva. The problem is that He doesn't have pramanam. And how he doesn't have the pramanam, must be understood. It must be concluded here. He can look at the waking as an experience. He can look at the dream as an experience. There is a nature. He doesn't have to reflect. Waking is an experience. I am there. Dream is an experience. I am there. But he doesn't look at, there is a nature, there is no universal, effortless recognition that deep sleep state is an experience. He says it is a negation of experience. If you fail to understand what I said just now, you have failed in everything. The universal feeling is, waking is my experience, dream is my experience, therefore my presence is there. But there is no presence of mind in the deep sleep state, because deep sleep state doesn't come to a person effortlessly in the universally as an experience. Deep sleep state doesn't come to a jiva as an experience. It comes to him as a negation of experience. And it comes as a negation of experience. Then one also thinks it's a negation of myself. Death comes to a person not as an experience. Death comes to a person as a negation of experience. And which faculty can convey that deep sleep state is not a negation of experience? It is experience pertaining to the negation of everything. But which faculty? Even when Vedanta says the deep sleep state is not negation of experience, but it is experience pertaining to the negation of the thought in its entirety, the man struggles to grasp it. That purva sanskara, the avidya, the erroneous feeling that it is, the conclusion that it is negation of experience, the idea that the deep sleep state is the negation of experience, comes to him and haunts him again and again. And what Vedanta says, just doesn't count. Are you able to follow? What Vedanta says doesn't count. When pramanas, even after hearing the pramana, it is difficult for the jiva to understand that the sushupti is not a negation of experience. Sushupti is not a negation of experience, but it is experience pertaining to the negation. Despite hearing the Vedanta, it doesn't register. Do you think that it is going to get registered without any pramana? Vedanta pramana. If Sushupti is appreciated as an anubhava, then death also is appreciated as anubhava of the truth. Jagrati is anubhava of oneself. Dream is also. It is an experience of myself related to the world. Dream is an experience about myself related to the dream. Deep sleep state is an experience about one's existence minus the object. If deep sleep state is appreciated as anubhava, if death is appreciated as anubhava, even before existence, before the birth, the entire blackout, the total blackout in any form is not a blackout of experience. It is an experience pertaining to blackout. All blackouts are the same, G. What is the difference between One blackout, another blackout. Sushupti blackout and the death blackout, क्या फर्क है? Blackout, blackout. स्वामी जी इस blackout से वापस आते हैं, उस blackout से वापस नहीं आते। तो ठीक है, वापस क्यों नहीं आते हैं जी? इस blackout में, इस blackout से उसी घर में आते हैं, दूसरे blackout से दूसरे घर में आते हैं। अब क्या? That's a very uninteresting interruption in the discussion. Unwarranted interruption. You have to judge what is blackout. The blackout of deep sleep or the blackout of death or the blackout of before birth is one and the same. If blackout as such is appreciated, not as a blackout of anubhava, but it is experience pertaining to the blackout. And Vedanta Pramana just does that. And there is no faculty which can convey that there is that Sushupti is not the negation of Anubhava, but it is Anubhava pertaining to the negation of thought and time, etc. Therefore, if Jiva doesn't know the truth, why is it he doesn't know the truth? Pramana abhavat. Pramana. Maybe he can be exposed. What are you talking is exposure? What exposure? Where is it available? Just being a religious person doesn't mean exposure to Pramana. Being a religious person going to Haridwar every weekend and then coming back doesn't amount to exposure to the Pramana. Taking dips in Ganga day in and day out doesn't mean it doesn't amount to be exposure to Pramana. Nothing. And therefore, you can develop a lot of effortless patience and tolerance with all the jivas. You understand? A jiva can't be otherwise. If he cries, he can't be otherwise. If he laughs, can't be otherwise. Unexposed to the Shabda Pramanam which talks about the truth, and without undertaking deep reflection upon what is being said by Vedanta, he will just be what he is. Do what you can. Although jiva to ye bhi rahega. And therefore, अनेक जन्मों में the prayers nitya karma done in many janmas. Some prayer, even if one is not a Hindu, as a jiva, some good deed done somewhere gets an opportunity to hear about the truth in any language. Even one vakya. Suddenly that sometimes, you are traveling in a train and you sit with a person and he says something. Sushupti is not negation of Anubhava, but it is Anubhava pertaining to negation can trigger on. It can become Mahavakya. Then he takes up, immediately wakes up to this. What a thing! Blackout is not blackout of experience. If blackout were a blackout of experience, I would never have the experience of the blackout. If blackout is Anubhava, then there is no negation of Anubhava at any time. That means there is no negation of the person, the being. That one little chingari, chinga, a little spark can ignite its reflection. That amounts to the exposure to Pramanaji. Though that can be a first small step in the right direction. Therefore, If a jiva doesn't know, if a jiva doesn't know, it is not his fault. If he has raga dveshas, it's not his fault. How much can without exposure to Shabda Pramana, even if you have self-control, how long you can suffer that self-control? Every day, control. One day you will break out. Yes, you will break out. It's like, go on hearing what the wife says or what the husband says, go on tolerating. One day you explode. That's it. That is why willpower is not mighty. Willpower has its limitation. The will breaks down. The will breaks down. You may go on fighting somebody. The will breaks down. Like our yesterday's party, Anna party. The will broke down and they said, let us make a party. You cannot, in this country, you can never get votes unless you buy them. It's not easy. You are not, Mahatma Gandhi was different. You can't, in this country, you can buy them. Yes. And the country was not divided. Country was one. Now country is divided. A very sensitive government. They were, I don't know how to describe this British government. They were gentlemen, they are gentlemanly cruel foxes. But gentlemen, they have certain values, Ji. They could have easily killed Mahatma Gandhi in one year. At the present, our government, supposing somebody else, कोई problem ही नहीं है. किसी को भेज दो, एक गुंडा को भेज दो, खत्म. बाद में देख लेंगे कोर्ट में. What will these people? I will be really greatly surprised if their party wins. These people will buy out. एक लाख दे देंगे. They can bring all the money. Anyway, let us not go into that. All that we say is the will power is not mighty. This very knowledge that willpower is not mighty, that is a part of wisdom. That way, you will not try to use your will to solve every problem. You will go for the truth. You will go for the truth. Without the help of that truth, without the help of the vision of the truth, without the help of looking at yourself, the being the truth, you can't think what problems can we solve. And that is why one goes on. Nobody solves the problems, one goes on. Just live with, suffer one after the other. We don't solve one problem after another, we keep suffering. And when the problem, आपको हिंदी में एक बात बताएंगे. कोई चीज, when you buy something in the market, उसका म्याद खत्म होती है. मालूम है ना? Expiry date. Expires. Problem का भी expiry date होती है. वो अपने आप खत्म होती है. You think you have solved it. Every problem has an expiry date. Because prarabdha, and when the prarabdha is exhausted, the problem also is gone. When the problem अपने आप खत्म होती है, then you think you have solved. Nobody solves it. कुछ नहीं. People wade through this to go on moving from problem after problem after problem and die off. Okay. Thus we are through with this particular point. Man is not endowed with a pramanam for the truth. Number one. If human beings, if the jivas are suffering and they don't come to the truth, they may even have devotion to God. That's not exposure to the truth. Devotion to God may bring them some exposure to the truth in the next life, but devotion to God itself is not. That is why even Bhagavan is very honest when he says, हमारी भक्त लोगों को अगले जन्म में I will be there to guide his thinking towards the Advaita Jnana. This is, hey Rama, what a long-term promise it is. And therefore, when you have an opportunity to study, just know you are a different individual. There is something, your background, you don't remember it. But there is something big. Otherwise you wouldn't. Okay, ji. Atha Adhyasa Pratigna Bhashyam. We are going to begin today. Today is Dvitiya. है ना? Dvitiya है ना? Dvitiya अच्छा है. When we begin the book on the Dvitiya to talk about Advitiya, it is Shubham. Today is Dvitiya. Okay, now to begin with, we have to go word by word. It's not easy. It's a There is a word called Yushmat and there is a word called Asmat. There is a word called Yushmat. The very first line. The very first page, you can't find out the very first. And how to find out the first page? Hey Rama. Hey Rama. इसके लिए कौन सी प्रमाण ढूंढेंगे? पहला पेज कैसे बता दी? How to find out the first page? हाँ जी, Yushmat. Please listen to this. Yushmat means this. Thou. Yushmat means thou. You. You means anything that can be objectified is you. That is in contrast. Anything that stands in contrast to the I, the subject, is Yushmat. The table, even though in common parlance we say this, what we call this, what we call that, what we call you, what we call he, what we call she, what we call it, all of them come under you, thou, because all of them stand in contrast to the subject. Every object, even he, she, it, etc. Even though he is a conscious individual, but what stands perceived by you is only his form. And as a form, an individual as a form stands in contrast to the Aida subject. Are you able to follow this? Thus the whole creation stands as thou. Objects or space is thou. Air is thou. Fire, water, earth is thou. The body is thou. The thoughts are thou. Time is thou. Except the truth, the entire creation comes under thou. Why? Because it is objectified. It is objectified. Whether it is objectified through the senses or it is objectified through imagination, it makes no difference. Dukkham, thou. Sukham, thou. Fear, thou. The entire sansara means thou. Thou means an object. And it is called you because it stands in contrast to I, the subject. So the I means the asmat is a conscious being. I is a conscious being. And anything that is objectified is the meaning of the word yushmat. Thus Bhashyakara reduces the entire list of pronouns to one pronoun called Yushmat. All pronouns, he, she, it, this, that, everything is reduced to thou. Here itself you can understand very beautifully. Truth is aham, I, and the rest is thou. Because which stands in contrast to me. And when I look at the table, it is I am me, and this is right in contrast to me. So it becomes what? Thou. Thou. Therefore the whole samsara is thou. I hope I am able to convey and you are able to follow what? Thou. In fact, even though I said Bhashyakara reduces he, she, it, etc. to thou, that's not true. It is actually the thou basically that is interacted with by various people as he, she, it. It's called he, she, it, this, that. But fundamentally the whole creation is thou. The anubhava is that it is thou. The kalpana is that it is he, she. Clear? Yushmat, asmat. One is the I, the conscious being. The other is the universe that is objectified. Pratyaya, thought. Asmat pratyaya, yushmat pratyaya, a sense. There is anubhava of, there is a thought pertaining to one's being as aham. There is a sense about there is a thought pertaining to oneself, one's being. So in ignorance, the aham should be taken as, even the truth is not an object of I thought, but in ignorance it presents itself as an object of I. It looks as an object of I thought, and it also continues to be not an object of thought, so the symptom. Did you follow this sentence? Thus, the truth in ignorance presents itself as an object of I thought, though it continues to be there as swataha siddham. So in ignorance, the truth is described as asmat pratyaya gocharaha. In ignorance, the self presents itself as. In ignorance, the self is looked upon as asmat pratyaya gocharaha. But even when it presents itself as asmat pratyaya gocharaha, in fact, it continues to be there as swata siddham, not an object of I thought. बहुत बड़ी बात है. So there are discussions. Pratyaya gocharatvam apatma. Is it Swarupam or in the state of ignorance? We say it is only in the state of ignorance. That it is asmat pratyaya gocharam. Gocharam means vishayam. That one's existence looks like an object of I thought. It looks like as though the meaning of I thought. The self looks as though it is the meaning of I thought. That is only in the state of ignorance. Otherwise, it exists independent of being an object of thought or any thought, or subject of any thought. In deep sleep state, you are neither an object of a thought, nor even a subject of thought, the source of it. You are one without a second. Really. But concluded by people as a blackout. It is a blackout of thought, not a blackout of the experience, blackout of the fact that it is a blackout of thought. Therefore, Yushmad Asmat Pratyaya Gochara Yoho, up to that, between the object of I thought, object means subject matter here, and the object of Yushmat, you thought. Atma is Asmat Pratyaya Gocharaha, and the rest of the creation is Yushmat Pratyaya Gocharaha, and between the two. This body is Yushmat Pratyaya Gocharaha. This body is Yushmat Pratyaya Gocharaha. And the one who is aware of the body is Asmat Pratyaya Gocharaha. This particular thinking that Atma is Asmat Pratyaya Gocharaha and the body is Yushmat Pratyaya Gocharaha is a thinking done within the realm of embodiment. This is the real clue to set aside a lot of arguments. You know, it's an important thing. You miss it, you miss a lot. Otherwise, one may say, how can the truth fundamentally be an object of aham pratyaya, etc.? Who says it is fundamentally asmat pratyaya vishaya? Within the state of ignorance, we refer to Atma as asmat. Otherwise, how do you begin the teaching? How do you begin the teaching? How do you explain that this embodiment is a confusion? In order to explain that the embodiment is a confusion, then you have to answer the question, confusion between what and what? In order to explain this embodiment as the identification of the truth with the form, in order to explain this embodiment as identification of the truth with the form, or to explain it as a confusion, then I have to say confusion between what and what? Identification of what with what? And the student is rooted in that sense of embodiment. And for him only we have to begin. We have to refer to his existence as Asmat Pratyaya Vishayaha and refer to the body as Yushmat Pratyaya Vishayaha. And both of them are contrary to each other. Why? Because the body can't know and the one who knows cannot be the object. An object can't know. Therefore, an object can never be the subject. And the subject cannot be the object. The one who is conscious cannot be inert. And the inert cannot be conscious. Therefore, this so-called life, what we call a life is nothing but this thought that I am the form is thought. And afterwards what you do is not is nothing. जिंदगी में आप क्या करते हैं doesn't count. Life means what? This particular thought, I am Deha. That's called life. This thought of embodiment is called life, Ji. That means the entire life is presupposing only that confusion. Therefore, you can't talk about life without talking about this confusion between the truth and the error, the body. Clear enough? So, Yushmad Asmat Pratyaya Gochara Yoho. So, the one who is aware of the body cannot be the body. And the body cannot be aware. So, between the conscious and the inert. What is the other language used? Vishaya, Vishayi, no. Between the subject and the object. Vishaya means object. The body is an object. Even this reference to the body as an object is only a concessional statement that in the beginning, because a student always looks at the body, when a body dies, it looks like an object. Therefore, body is an object. And the one who is aware of it is the subject. The subject is called Vishayi and the body is called Vishaya. So between the two, and what is the subject? Asmat Pratyaya Gochara. What is the body? Yushmat Pratyaya Gochara. What is the subject? Vishayi. What is the body? Vishaya. What is the subject? Chetanam. What is the body? Jadam. Now you can't change. Body can't change and become conscious. Now the subject can change and become inert. Therefore now here itself you have an additional piece of information, clinch it here. Therefore, fundamentally there is no change. Even matter doesn't change. Because the definition of change is, if the matter can change and become consciousness, then that can be called change. But matter doesn't change to become Chetana. Matter, with all its changes, matter remains. So matter remains matter. No change. And the Chetanam remains Chetanam. Therefore, the Atma doesn't change to become Anatma. And Anatma also doesn't change to become Atma. Therefore, Atma is changeless. Anatma also is changeless despite all changes. Despite all the changes, see, the so-called changes are so superficial. A Vedanta Vidyarthi must take one more step. Matter changes. Having changed, what does it become? Remains matter. So, kya bada change is? Matter remains matter. Jadam remains jadam. Kya hua? Milk becomes curd, it doesn't become subject. Therefore, I don't think really fundamentally change is, Vedanta fundamentally doesn't accept change at any level. At any level. Because Dravyam also doesn't change. The truth is, and the creation appears. The appearance includes the changes in it. Despite changes, it remains appearance. Appearance doesn't change and lose its identity of being an appearance. Did you hear that? Concentrate. The appearance doesn't change to lose its identity as an appearance. So, with all the changes in matter, it remains matter. Therefore, the so-called changes that we talk about are very, very superficial. Fundamentally, nothing. And along with that, clinch one more thought if you can. It is only these changes that are defined by human beings as growth and decline. You understand? It's all, he has grown. Abhi Amir ban gaya. This is all what? Changes. Ek garib ban gaya. Changes. What are these changes? Superficial changes. Fundamentally, Jiva remains Jiva. Jivatvam doesn't change and become Brahmatvam. Jivatvam remains Jivatvam with all its changes. Jivatvam remains Jivatvam with all its changes. The Jadam remains Jadam with all its changes, and therefore the so-called Labha, Nashta, etc., the so-called growth and decline is just nothing but a change. And despite all the growth and decline, fundamentally what is there? Nothing has happened. Nothing has happened. The Jiva goes to heaven, remains Jiva. What is actually sun lena? He goes to heaven, remains Jiva. Comes back to Prithvi. Enjoyed a lot, remains Jiva. Bahut kama liya, remains Jiva. Bahut dekh liya, remains Jiva. Bahut kha liya, remains Jiva. Bahut dekh liya, remains Jiva. What is the net gain? Kuch nahi. Why? Because the truth is, despite all the changes, the appearance remains appearance. Or, I will take one more step. Despite all the changes, the error remains error. Because the error can't change and disappear. Error remains as it is. It needs to be corrected. Therefore, change, the superficial changes are not contrary to the error. These changes are nothing. Anyway, itna काफी है. Try. There is nothing. You must really follow the teaching. Thus, Yushmat Pratyaya Gochara, Asmat Pratyaya Gochara Yoho, Vishaya Vishayinoho, Tamah Prakashavat Viruddha Swabhava Yoho. These subject and the object are like light and darkness, contrary to each other. It's a very beautiful thing. Tamaha, darkness. Prakasha, the light. Tamah prakashavat, like light and darkness. Viruddha svabhavaha. The conscious subject can never cease to be the conscious subject. The inert object can never cease to be the inert. The conscious can never cease to be eternal. The inert cannot cease to be non-eternal. The conscious cannot cease to be satyam, and the object cannot cease to be mithya. I may lose ignorance about its being mithya, but not it can lose its identity of being mithya. I can't say it is satyam now. It is non-separate from satyam and gets falsified anyway. But not that an object continues to be an object as a reality, as a satyam. No. Thus, the subject can never cease to be satyam and the creation can never cease to be mithya. Like the darkness cannot change and become the light, nor the light can change and become darkness. It can't change and lose its identity, svabhava. Swarupa, it can't lose its identity. Thus, between the subject and the creation, between the subject and the creation, which are like light and darkness, contrary to each other. When we are told by the Shastra, do Atmanatma Viveka, the reflection should be to see this point. Just there is subject is effortlessly is, in contrast to all that. There is a virud. There is a dissimilarity. It is like, when there is a crystal, to give an example, it can help you. There is a colorless crystal and there is a color. Another. See the difference between the colorless crystal and the rest of the colors. Once being is like the colorless, pure, conscious being. And the creation is full of colors, forms, shapes, sizes, sounds, tastes, touches, smells, etc. The one who is aware is colorless. I don't know whether I should use that phrase. Because generally colorless means insipid. Generally colorless means insipid. Should say pure, taint-free, niranjanam. There is a beautiful Sanskrit word for colorless, niranjanam. Anjanam means a taint. Anjanam means, that taint. And anjana, anything that sticks is called anjanam. Truth is taintless. And this whole creation is all full of taint. Okay. Thus, Atmanatma Viveka means just sit down at home. Just even for a few seconds, think in terms of. Don't be in a hurry to arrive at the great divide. May take really time, but all that you have, an effort to make that topic in your mind first. Make that topic in your mind. Reflecting is different from being reflective of a topic. If you can accomplish a situation of being reflective of a topic, that reflectiveness leads to reflection. Reflectiveness. It's like, to begin with, that Arunodayam leads to Suryodayam. Arunodayam? Before the sunrise there is Arunodayam. The Surya comes in a chariot of horses. So when somebody is coming in a chariot, what do you see first? The man on the chariot or the horses? That is called Arunodayam. Surya Bhagavan is coming. So once the Arunodayam appears, then be sure there is going to be. Take this example very seriously. In the same manner in life, tending to reflect leads to reflection. वाकई जाने के लिए मन नहीं आता है. चलो कोई बात नहीं, बैठो, try to, we will decide whether to go or not बाद में, put on the shoes, you get into the shoes. I have not yet decided to go for a walk. चलो थोड़ा सा, let me, उसके बाद हो जाता है जी. Tending to go for a walk will prepare you. That thing is called that tending to do is called the first step. It is like preparing oneself for doing it. That tending to do. चलो देखेंगे, अगर ना भी जाएंगे तो कोई बात नहीं, let me put on that little effort. And therefore in that home you just sit down and then tend to make the beautiful contrast between the subject and the one who is aware and everything else. And what you are aware of can never be your attribute, the subject's quality. However much it may look to be your quality, however much it may look to be your quality, however much it may look to be your quality, but still not your. The habitual, the perception, the age-old perception is that it is my quality, but the anubhava says it is not. Therefore, the more you discern between the effortlessly present subject and the effortlessly present creation, the contrast, that's all living, seeing the Atma, Anatma, Viveka, the distinction between the great subject. When we say I, it is that subject, which is totally unlike the creation, the object. And in order to instill that reflection, Bhagavan here brings in a beautiful example of Tama Prakashavat Viruddha Swabhavayo. Means very obvious. Sometimes dissimilarity has to be figured out, but here the dissimilarity is obvious. It is not. Like between the light and darkness, I don't have to arrive at the dissimilarity. It is obvious. Similarly here, between the subject and the body, the distinction is obvious. I don't have to struggle for it. Prakashavat viruddha swabhavayoho. So when the subject is like the sun and the body is like the darkness, itaretara bhava, each being the other. You know, one is itaretara bhava. You concentrate on this phrase. Itaretara bhava means the subject becoming the object, or the object becoming the subject, or the subject being the object, or the object being the subject, is what is called itara bhava. Anupapattau siddhaya, when it is absolutely untenable. When it is absolutely untenable that the subject can be the body, and when it is absolutely untenable that the body, the object, can be the subject. They can't be each other. Subject and object can't be each other. So the first untenability that Bhashyakara conveys is the subject and the object being each other is absolutely untenable. The body being the subject and the subject being the body is absolutely untenable. Anupapattau siddhaya. Siddhaya means it has already been clinched. When it is absolutely impossible for the light to be darkness, when it is absolutely impossible for the light to be darkness and for the darkness to be the light. In that manner, when it is absolutely clear that the subject can't be the body, the object, and the object, the body can't be the subject. And I'm going to repeat. When the Asmat Pratyaya Gochara cannot be the Yushmat Pratyaya Gochara, and vice versa. And when the Vishayi can't be the Vishaya, and vice versa. And when the light cannot be the darkness, and vice versa. When the subject cannot be the body, and vice versa. And this is Siddhaya, when it is clear. I'm concluding the sentence. Another 2 minutes. Tad dharmanam api, even their qualities. If the subject cannot be the body and the body cannot be the subject, then the subject's qualities also can't be the body's qualities. And body's qualities also can't be subject's qualities. Tad dharmanam api, even their qualities. Sutaram, absolutely. Itaretara bhava anupapatti, can't belong to each other. When the subject and the body can't be each other, their qualities also cannot belong to each other. First sentence D. What needs to be recognized in life is, first you recognize what is untenable, then you recognize what is tenable. What is untenable in life is the subject being the object and the object being the subject. Being, underline that being. You have to follow it. Here is an opportunity to use your entire education and intelligence to understand what is being said by Vedanta. Using intelligence to make a little more money to start a boutique is nothing great. कुछ भी नहीं, क्या करेंगे? The subject cannot be the object, and the object cannot be the subject. Therefore, the qualities of the subject cannot be the qualities of the object, and vice versa. And therefore, we will see it in the next class. I will complete the sentence. And therefore, the felt being each other. I am the body and the body is me. My qualities are the body's qualities and body's qualities are my qualities. This feeling of being each other and being each other's qualities is not really untenable, but yet if it is felt, it is mithya. Mithya means mithya jnana. It is an error. What is untenable, if it is perceived, it is an error. This is the definition of an error. What is untenable, if it is still perceived, then it is an error. This is going to be next. Up to this you can. It's not possible for the subject to be an object, or become an object, or be an object. It is not possible for the object also to be the subject or become the subject, and each other's qualities. If that is clear, then the felt oneness between the subject and the body is an untenable feeling. If an untenable feeling still takes place, it is only in the form of mithya jnanam. It is a wrong conclusion. पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ओम शांति शांति शांति। हरि ओम।